Hey you! Yes, you! Are you new to reading or looking for more genres to explore? Then boy do I have a video for you! Stay tuned! And I'm gonna give you book recommendations in almost every genre. Hello, I'm so glad you're here and still here because quite frankly that was embarrassing, but I do love to give book recommendations and I have explored almost every genre. I found something I like in almost every single one, so I'm going to be sharing with you 14 different genres slash subgenres and some book recommendations in each. So I hope you got a pen and paper ready or, screenshot or do whatever you need to do to keep track of these because they're good. Starting with mystery, I'm not the biggest mystery fan, I'm going to be honest, but something I do like is mystery humor. And that is where my boy Benjamin Stevenson comes in with everybody in my family has killed someone and everyone on this train is a suspect. There is even a Christmas novella. But if I could, recommend any mystery book to you, it would be this series. I love it so much. Let's start with Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. Now, Benjamin Stevenson, the author, is a stand-up comedian. And it shows. This is about our man Ernest, who just kind of ends up in these situations, and he is the best to have ever done it. He can solve any crime, he can figure anything out. But if you're looking for kind of like a Knives Out meets Clue mystery that's like not so serious, but like there are stakes and people are dying, then I would definitely start with this series. It's so good. The first one, they are all trapped in a ski lodge and people start dying. The next, they're all stuck on a train. So what more could you want? Next is science fiction, which again, admittedly is not my favorite genre. I do have more of a hard time getting into some of the more higher complex stories, but I have 3 here that I really like that I would recommend. So especially if maybe you're new to science fiction or just reading in general and you're not quite sure where to start with science fiction, I would recommend these 3 books. First, we have Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Yes, this is the ugliest cover ever. There are a lot of iterations of this cover and all of them are better than this one. This one's just an egg with a zipper, but it does have a blurb or an introduction from Margaret Atwood, who is the best to have ever done it. Brave New World is about a future in where the world leaders have created this ideal picture perfect world. We follow our main character Bernard, who is like not really content in this picture perfect society that the world leaders have created, and so he goes off searching for something else. This is How You Lose the Time War. This is a short little book, but it packs a punch. This is about a time war. It just kind of drops you in to this scenic place that I still to this day don't fully understand, but you have 2 operatives from opposing teams who end up communicating via letters and end up falling in love. This is a love story about a futuristic world that, again, if you can read this and wrap your mind around it, then kudos to you because I'm still struggling, but it doesn't change the fact that this was really immersive and really wonderful and compelling, and I loved every second. Annihilation is one of my favorite books. I love this so much. There is also a movie version, which is slightly different, but I also love the movie as well. This is about an area called Area X. It's sealed off from society and the government, scientists, they're studying it. It's alien life forms. Everything in that area is just completely wonky and weird and treacherous, and no group that goes in comes out alive or comes out unchanged. So we have our group of 4 women who never have names, which I love me a nameless protagonist story. They go in, they're called like by their professions, like the engineer, the scientist, etc., the biologist. They go in to figure out what's going on, and it chronicles their journey inside this Area X that is just taken over by alien life forms. It's so good. Read this and then go watch the movie. Next, we have nonfiction, which I will easily admit is not a genre that I read very often. I do read it, but I don't love to read it. I would much rather prefer a fictional universe. However, my recommendation for nonfiction is the Intersectional Environmentalist by Leah Thomas. How to Dismantle Systems of Oppression to Protect People and the Planet. This is a beautiful dive into the environmentalist movement and how it is not just a environmental movement, but it is also a movement against racism and sexism and all of the things, how all of these systems kind of feed off of each other to oppress minorities, etc. So it's just a very good information. How to use feminism to fight for everybody affected by systems of repression and climate change, etc. Very good educational, informational read. Highly recommend. Historical fiction, my recommendation for you is Circe of course. I was a Percy Jackson girl growing up. I love Greek mythology. It was kind of my only personality for about 5 years there. And Cersei just kind of hit that spot. It kind of fed that little part of my soul that had been unfed since I was 15. Very good. This, of course, follows the Greek goddess Cersei, who is the son of Helios. Everyone thinks she's ugly, she's weird, she doesn't really fit in, and she gets outcast for something that she does. Zeus finds her threatening. She's kind of like a witch. She communicates with animals, she can turn people into animals, she has powers, blah, blah, blah. Zeus finds her threatening and throws her to this island where she is forced to stay, and it chronicles her journey there, and it is amazing. Obviously, she meets characters like Odysseus, Icarus. She even meets up with the Minotaur. Like, if you like Greek mythology, this is for you. This is for you. Honestly, if you don't like Greek mythology, this is for you too. Cersei is my historical fiction recommendation. Next up, I have 2 recommendations for thrillers. First, we have If We Were Villain follows 7 Shakespearean classmates in this elite arts conservatory program where their lives kind of get tangled up in their roles in drama, jealousy, and maybe a death or two. This definitely took me by surprise. I can't believe this is a debut novel. It is so well written. It is so gripping, and you're gonna have to read it because you won't regret it. The Perfect Marriage, I couldn't read fast enough. This is about a woman who is the best of the best criminal defense lawyer. One day she gets a call, her husband's in prison, and he is being accused of murdering his mistress, and she has to defend him. This takes some twists and turns that I didn't expect, but I had a great time nonetheless. Next up is romance, and it was really hard to narrow down. I picked 3 books, but honestly, I didn't want to just give you the same old tired romance book recommendations. These are somewhat popular, so maybe you've heard of them, but they're popular for a reason. They're really good. They're really well written. First is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This is not a spoiler. This is the literal plot of the book, but after a one-night stand between Bo and Win, Win gets pregnant, and they decide to raise the baby as friends, but we all probably know how that's gonna go. But literally from page 1, I was smiling and like giggling out loud, which, okay, embarrassing, but what a well-written book. What a fast, quick, light and easy read. It was so fun. It was so cute. If you like cute, cheesy romance, like honestly, this will fill your cup. Summer Fridays doesn't get talked about enough. Honestly, it kind of feels like it does because I talk about it every single chance that I get. But this follows our main characters, Sawyer and Nick, who their partners are working at a law firm together, and they start to suspect that their partners are having an affair with each other. So they meet up to kind of talk about it, to figure out what's going on, and they just end up spending a lot of time together and maybe falling in love. I don't know, you're gonna have to read it. This is the perfect New York 90s rom-com. I genuinely just cannot say enough good things. I love this book. And of course, I had to include Archer's Voice because this book just like consumed me, and I still constantly think about it. This follows our main character Bree, who moves to a small town after she experiences like a really traumatic event. So she's looking to get away, and there she meets Archer, who is the town recluse, who doesn't speak because of a traumatic incident that he had when he was a child, and she's able to communicate with him via sign language, and they just form one of the most like beautiful, authentic, realistic love stories I think I've ever seen portrayed in a book. It 100% captivated me. I was like, I'm watching these 2 people fall in love because they need each other, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. Next up is young adult, and this is just quite frankly too broad of a genre. So I did pick a fantasy and a romance book to share, but of course there's so much in young adult, in YA, that it's weird to have YA just be like an overarching genre, when of course there is young adult fantasy, young adult romance, young adult dystopian, young adult thriller. Like there's so much. So anyway, I am pushing 30, and so I don't read as much YA as I used to. And of course I could recommend the originals that I grew up with, like The Maze Runner, The Hunger Games, all of that, but I've kind of picked some newer-ish books that in the fantasy and romance YA genre. So let's get into it. For romance, we have Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood, which Ali Hazelwood writes a lot of romance, and it's usually adult romance, if you know what I mean. This is her YA romance debut, and honestly, it gave me the same warm and fuzzy feeling as all of her other novels. Like, this is clean, don't get me wrong. That's the only difference, is her adult novels are obviously spicy, they're for adults. This is for young adults. But the intensity, like the chemistry that these 2 characters have, they're rival chess players. Like, come on. you could call it enemies to lovers, more like rivals to lovers. Very cute. The chemistry is off the charts, and it made me feel like a little kid again. And I really appreciate that, because it doesn't have to be like a spicy adult book to be a feel-good romance, and this was a feel-good romance. For fantasy, we have Legendborn. I feel like in 10 years, when we're like 2025 fantasy, that was Legendborn. The same way I'm now like 2015 books, Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, all of that. So I feel like this is just going to become a cornerstone of the 2020s YA books. This is about Bree, who she's taking part in this program at a university for high school students. So she's in high school, but she is involved in this program at a university. And there she witnesses this event that nobody else around her can see, but she can see. And so she ends up in this underground King Arthur medieval group of demon slayers, and she's there to find out the truth about what happened to her own mother. And the web this book weaves is intricate and deep, and it is YA, but it is, like, honestly, as somebody who is 30 who doesn't gravitate towards YA naturally, this was so complex and so well written that it's easily my reading level. It's easily it didn't feel young. Obviously, it's safe for younger people, but it didn't feel young. It didn't treat the author like they were young. And it's just, I think, required reading at this point for everybody if you're a fan of fantasy. So good. I only have one book to recommend you in the memoir category, and that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. And typically, I just don't really read memoirs. Margaret Atwood has a memoir coming out later this year, which I am so excited, but I don't tend to read memoirs about people I don't know or don't like, but this was so popular that I had to pick it up. Like, I had no idea who Dolly Alderton was, and I still actually don't know. I mean, she's been a writer beforehand, like a journalist, but I don't think she was like a household famous name before she wrote this book. So kind of like a memoir, an underground memoir that wasn't really about somebody big and famous. However, this book, it kind of reads like fiction. Like, these are retellings, these are vignettes, these are stories about her life, her friendships. It says, like, the crossouts are everything I know about parties, dates, friends, jobs, life, love. And it just chronicles her 20s and her young adult years, her older adult years, the importance of friendships, of discovering who you are. There are just so many life lessons. Like, I mean, I tabbed the heck out of this. There's one quote that stands out to me that I love so much that says, "You're going to have to make a lifestyle choice between gel nail manicures and playing guitar. No woman can have both." Other than Dolly Parton. And as somebody who has gel nails and plays guitar, it is quite often a battle, but what I'm willing to fight. For fantasy, I'm basically just going to clean out this shelf right here. So first, let me recommend Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This just came out this year. This is a story that spans hundreds of years. It centers around three women vampires, each from different time periods, and how their lives intersect. This is so much goodness. There's so many themes going on. What do you hunger for? What is living forever? What is love? And all of these questions. Like, it's just such a really gripping read, and V.E. Schwab is just the best to ever do it. I would, of course, recommend the Shepherd King duology, starting with One Dark Window and then Two Twisted Crowns. This is the perfect duology. Okay, this is a land that is covered in fog and mist. It's eerie, it's magical. We have our main character Elspeth, who lives with a little demon man inside her head who talks to her, and you're not really sure, like, if he's for her or if he's against her. And there's just, the magic system is so complex that I just can't really get into it without bringing up my footnotes. And that's what I love in a fantasy. It is so complex. You need footnotes. And, like, it's just so immersive, dark academia vibes. Like, other than, like, the real threat and the real danger, like, this is the kind of book I want to live inside. If I could have this aesthetic, I would, without a second guess. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I haven't read the entire series. I've only read the first book, but if they're anything like this, then I would recommend the whole entire series. But this is the kind of fantasy book that, as I was reading it, I was like, wow, a fantasy book has not felt like a fantasy book in a long time. This felt like a fantasy book. This is obviously, it's called The Poppy War. It is about war. It is about a lot of terrible, cruel things. Some parts were very hard for me to get through and very hard to swallow because there is that, of course, that element of realness because war is very real. But if you're looking for an immersive, gripping, quick moving fantasy book, this is the one. I have two recommendations for romantasy, which is hard to do. I think that this genre is hard to define. It's quite usually where romance is very integral to the plot, where if you took romance out, you wouldn't really have a story or you'd have lots missing. Like all fantasy that I've read pretty much has romance in it. These are just a little bit more romance forward, romance heavy books that I really enjoyed. First is The Courting of Bristol Keats. This follows Bristol Keats and her sisters after their parents pass away and they're left kind of struggling to stay afloat in their town when Bristol starts receiving letters from an aunt that she's never heard of who says that she can help her. Through this, she begins to unravel mysteries and secrets that she never knew about her family. She goes on a quest to do something that I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to spoil anything, but she has to work with the handsome Faylord, of course. And yeah, the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I love the whole series. And again, YA is so tricky because some of it is like, I'm definitely too old. And some of it is like, yeah, that hits the spot. And this is the kind of YA romantasy that hits the spot. It felt a little young, but in a more nostalgic way for me. So this follows our girl Evangeline. Her fiance just left her for her stepsister. And she's like, something's not right. So she makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts, Jax, who, he's the Prince of Hearts. So she's like, hopefully I can appeal to him. Hopefully he can see my misery and he'll help me out. But joke's on her because Jax is a cynic. He is cursed that every woman he kisses will die unless she is his true love. So he's been going around like just kissing women and they're all just dropping dead like flies. So he's a cynic. He's not very happy. But because of this, they get thrust together and they have to work together. And it is just, I love it so much. It's so cute. And it felt like a magical Disney princess. Like, I just loved it. It felt very nostalgic for some reason. And I don't know. I would recommend it highly, obviously. Moving on to horror, I have two recommendations for you. First would be Model Home by Rivers Solomon. This is about a Black family who moves into like an all-white neighborhood. And something is really off about the house. Something weird's always happening. It's very eerie. As it happens their entire childhood, and then the children grow up, move out, and their parents stay in this house. And then, however many years later, the parents pass away, the kids return, and they're like, something fishy is happening. Something nefarious is happening. And this was a very gripping, eerie read. It is horror. It fits the bill. Of course, we have Tender is the Flesh, because I can't stop talking about this because it ruined and also made my life better. So this is graphic. What I'm about to explain will probably seem graphic, and it's not nearly as graphic as what is in this book. This is a world in which the consumption of animals for meat is no longer available because all the animals are poisoned. And so society has moved on to eating humans as their meat source. Yeah, I really can't get too much into the plot because then I have to explain the whole thing. This is it's a short book. It's a very good take on capitalism. I would even say veganism. There's just a lot going on, and it is as unsettling as you would think it is. But honestly, as somebody who doesn't do horror, I just couldn't put it down. I think when horror is done in a more literary sense, I can stomach it a lot easier. And I think that this was kind of that. Speaking of literary fiction, litfic is one of my favorite genres. I have 3 recommendations for you today. Literary fiction is just more so a story that is character driven rather than plot driven. So it doesn't have to be this 3-act structure that is building to something grand, but it can just be kind of a mellow story that is a more deep look at characters. And that's something I love. So first we have the classic, The Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison. This is the story of a little girl in Ohio who is Black, who wishes and prays for blue eyes like all of the, all the blonde, blue-eyed children in America, because she wants to be as beautiful and as loved as them. It is as devastating as you think it is, and it is, of course, a beautiful character study. My Last Innocent Year follows Isabel as she is in college and begins an affair with a writing professor, and just the implications that come along with that, and the standards, and just, yeah. Yeah, it was a very realistic read. It was a little bit jarring. It was like, oh, I've heard this story before, as most women have. And it was hard to read, but in a very beautiful way. I, Who Have Never Known Men, will always take the cake for me when it comes to literary fiction. This is about a group of 39 women and one young girl who are living in a bunker for years and years. They have no idea why or how they got there, what's going on. They managed to escape. This is not a spoiler. They managed to escape, and it is chronicling them in the world after that. It is very eerie, very unsettling. This is one of those books where after I finished it, I just kind of had to stop and stare at the wall for 5 minutes because I was like, what? Yeah, I love this book. I cannot recommend it enough. It was so good. For poetry recommendations, I have one book called My Father's Eyes, My Mother's Rage by Rose Brick. This is for my girls with mommy issues. That's it. If you want to be devastated and also feel seen, this little poetry book will pack a punch. Lastly, we have dystopian novels, which again could border on science fiction, could border on fantasy. I think the lines can be a little bit blurry, but I do love me a good dystopian novel. So obviously we got The Hunger Games, we got Divergent, we got Maze Runner, we got basically YA 2015 dystopian that was solid, but here are some other picks. Station 11. It's hard to explain. This is a post-apocalyptic world in which it's a fictional swine flu that kind of wiped a lot of people out, and this follows a traveling Shakespeare company like 20 years into the apocalypse or post-apocalypse, and they're traveling Shakespeare group singing, putting on plays for the survivors. It's a really interesting read, but I can't recommend enough. There was a show made about this. I believe it only got one season, which makes me really, really sad because this is a wonderful book. The Unworthy. This could, again, be classified as horror, as Augustina Basterrica. This is the author of Tender as the Flesh. It could be, but it does take place in a post-apocalyptic setting, so I would classify it as dystopian. This is where AI kind of overtook the world, and so humans just shut everything down. They shut it all down. It all messed with the climate, and everything is just kind of ravaged and not good. Our main character, who is not named, yay for nameless protagonists, she winds up at this convent and becomes a part of this cult that we don't really, it's nefarious. They do a lot of terrible things. That would be the horror element, but you never really know why or what the gain is, and then somebody new shows up and kind of changes everything. Gripping read. Her books are usually short, and they are just really powerful and compelling and complete. I love them so much. And of course, I couldn't leave a single video without talking about The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, who is the best to have ever done it. This, I'm sure you're familiar. This is about a world in which America has kind of fallen. There is this new regime known as Gilead, who is ultra conservative and likes to use women as incubators for their babies. Yes, of course the show was incredible, but if you haven't read the original text, I would highly, highly recommend. It is very gripping, and it's so good. It's so good. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble for, I don't even know how long at this point. I feel like I've been here for hours, but I'll cut out all of the junk. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you're looking for some more book recommendations, try clicking over here. If you're wanting to see maybe a little cozy reading vlog, click over here. And don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.